It's October 11th, 1938. High above London, a tiny German plane flies through a thick fog bank. Inside, two men hunched over a briefcase are unaware they're being watched. They open it up, slide out a series of wheels, and begin turning them to various messages. Onlookers watch as each letter is replaced by another, scrambling the contents of the message. The men close the case, drop the briefcase into the waiting hands of a soldier, and hurry back to their plane. The soldier opens the briefcase and runs to his commander. "Sir," he gasps, "we've got a problem. Our codes have been stolen." The commander is shocked. He knows that if the British can decode the messages inside this briefcase, then the entire German military could be compromised. But how could this be? Their encryption is state-of-the-art, right? Well, actually it is, thanks to this. Enigma was an incredibly complex machine that could produce billions of cipher combinations every day. The Germans thought it was unbreakable, and it took years for the Allies to crack its code, which they ultimately did thanks to a mathematician named Alan Turing. It's me, and this is Top 5 Scary. Before and after. Number 5. The Germans take the cake when it comes to inventing crazy contraptions. In the early 1900s, they created a cipher machine that would encrypt any message typed into it. The machine consisted of 3 nested rotors, each containing 26 letters. When a user typed a letter, a switch was triggered, causing the first rotor to advance 1 notch. Once the first rotor had cycled all the way through the alphabet, the second rotor advanced and the process repeated itself. The end result, billions of possible combinations. Even after the first few months of use, Allied code breakers were unable to decipher a single message. That is until now. Number 4. While many tried and failed before him, it was Polish mathematician Marian Rejewski who first successfully decoded an Enigma message in 1932. With the help of colleagues, he created the world's first programmable computer called the Bomba. However, the Poles couldn't break the code fast enough to stay ahead of the Germans, as Hitler's army grew, so did the complexity of their encrypted messages. Soon the Poles were no longer able to keep up and were forced to share what little they knew about Enigma with the British. This gave Turing access to years of research and allowed him to quickly design an improved version of the Bomba called the Bomb. With the new machine, the British were finally able to stay ahead of the Germans. The messages the Germans thought were safe were now being read by the end of World War II. It is estimated that Enigma encryption was used over 175 million times, and the bomb helped break every one of those encryptions. Now, 3. If you've ever heard the expression necessity is the mother of invention, then you probably know where it came from. It's hard to think of a time where there was greater necessity than during World War II. Like most wars, this one wasn't exactly fun. There was death on a massive scale. Whole cities wiped off the face of the earth in a day, and people lived under the constant threat of annihilation. For these reasons, it's hard to believe that such dark times would also lead to positive advancements. But that's just the case. From radar to jet fighters, tanks to ballistics, countless inventions and innovations were developed because they were needed. And some of them wouldn't have been possible without a certain machine called Colossus. Now, you may not have heard of Colossus, but I bet you've heard of the Colossus of Rhodes. No, not that one. This Colossus was much less impressive to behold, but much more impressive when it came to function. In fact, it was the world's first programmable computer. It was developed in 1943 at the top secret Bletchley Park facility, where Alan Turing and his team were hard at work cracking the Enigma code. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the bomb was capable of decrypting German Enigma messages. The only problem was it took hours to do the job. That just wouldn't cut it anymore. So Turing teamed up with the British engineer Tommy Flowers to design a new machine that could work faster. What resulted was a massive 5,000 vacuum tube machine that could perform calculations in mere seconds. Colossus first went into operation in 1944 and was used until the end of the war. Historians estimate that Colossus helped shorten the war by 2 years. Had it not been for Colossus, the Germans may have launched a devastating counterattack against the Allies, which could have prolonged the conflict and saved many lives. And that's just the legacy of Colossus. It also helped lay the foundation for the modern digital age, and it wouldn't have been possible without Colossus. Number 2, throughout history, there have been many instances where science has saved lives. A recent example is the development of vaccines. Vaccines have helped eradicate diseases like smallpox and polio, and they've saved millions of lives. But vaccines aren't the only thing that's helped save millions. In fact, there's one scientific field that can claim responsibility for saving tens of millions of lives: cryptography. Just think about it. If you send sensitive information over an unencrypted connection, anyone can intercept it. This is especially true during wartime, and it's precisely because of this risk that codes and ciphers have become so important throughout history. Codes and ciphers are everywhere you look these days. We use them every day without even realizing it. From the lock on your front door to the money in your wallet to the food you eat. But none of this would be possible without the work of one man. His name was Abraham Sinclair, and he was a locksmith who lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In 1881, Sinclair invented the first practical cipher lock, which quickly became popular among bankers and politicians. Since then, his company has sold millions of locks, which have been used to protect everything from nuclear launch codes to classified documents to top secret government facilities. And it's all because of one man. No. At the beginning of World War II, Nazi Germany began using a new type of encryption machine that was nearly impossible to break. The Germans called it Enigma, and the British knew they had to do something about it. They assembled a team of the brightest minds in the country to try to break the code, and they set up shop in a top-secret facility called Bletchley Park. There, amidst the rolling hills and manicured gardens, a group of code breakers worked tirelessly to try to beat the Germans at their own game. Among them was a brilliant mathematician named Alan Turing. Together, Turing and his team developed a machine that would test every possible combination and permutation of letters to see if they could find the key to the Enigma code. Finally, after years of work, they succeeded. And that's when things got weird. You see, once the team realized that they could break the Enigma code, they didn't want the Germans to know it. So they devised a plan. They would intentionally introduce errors into the decrypted messages, hoping that the Germans wouldn't catch them. And for the most part, it worked. The Germans never did figure out that the messages they were receiving were fake. But that's not the weird part. The weird part is that the Germans ended up using the fake messages to their advantage. You see, the Germans were planning to invade Britain in 1940. But when they received word that the British were planning to invade Norway, they decided to postpone the invasion by a year. In hindsight, this turned out to be a very good decision for the Germans. You see, in 1940, the British were in a much weaker position than they would be in 1941, and it's likely that the Germans would have won the war if they had invaded Britain in 1940. But because they didn't, the British were able to prepare themselves better for the German invasion, which ultimately led to the defeat of Nazi Germany. And it's all because of one man. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. Do you think you would have been a good fit with Turing and his team? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.